off with question 1. Details that should be included in the definition of risk management include the fact that it's about covering financial and personal injury losses from unforeseen, sudden, or unusual accidents, including intentional torts. That's the textbook definition. And information that should be added include what to do to control risks, like the exact actions, and the rationale behind each of the steps. So exact steps of what to do and why those steps have been chosen, so that it makes sense to people and so that it's easier for them to remember. Best way to identify risk is to physically walk around and inspect your property every day before you open. And it's also to talk to members of your staff who are working and can also help you see things that you might not see, or point out things that you might not have noticed that they have noticed since they work there a lot. And also keep an open eye out for anything that could be considered dangerous. Most common way to transfer risk is through insurance policies. There's a whole many types of them. And who should be included in your risk management planning process? The risk managers and committees that you've hired and selected, who you've of course given authority to, should definitely be part of the process. But most importantly, you should include all employees as well, because frontline employees are the people who are actually interacting with the guests, and so they can tell you things that you might not have otherwise noticed since you are not physically always going to be there. So they know they have the most experience and they have the highest chance of knowing what happens, what actually goes on when they interact with guests, and they may also be the ones, given that they are the ones who always interact with guests, they may also be the ones who are inadvertently causing the dangers and they just don't know about it. So you should definitely include them into your process. Question 2. Emergency action plan is different from crisis management plan, because emergency action plan tells you what to do when in the time when an emergency occurs. So when an emergency, if there's a fire right now, I'll resort to the EAP in order to figure out what do I do in this current point in time. While the crisis management plan, the CMP, is for after we get everybody out of the building during a fire, then what do we do to recover from that? So crisis management plan is for after the actual catastrophe or emergency, while emergency action plan is for during the time. Critical components of the EAP is that it should tell employers and employees what each is meant to do, their roles. It should be kept in writing in the workplace and in a place where all employees and employers can access it to review it if they have any questions. It should definitely include procedures for reporting, evacuating, determining who needs to operate the critical parts of the plant before evacuating, how to account for everybody, and how to perform rescues and medical duties, and should include the contact information of supervisors or superiors who know the emergency action plan very well in case employees have questions or need clarification about certain parts. Critical component of EAPs also include an alarm system, everyone being trained on what to do and when to do it, and constant reviewing and updating of the EAP, because things change and you want to spot all dangerous things as fast as you can and change them out, and you want to review it as much as you can. Meanwhile, for the CMP, the crisis management plan, you want to ensure that the plan includes who talks to the media after the emergency. Ideally, you only want one person, so there's one message. Everyone just tells this person, and this person can send out one message, so there's no conflicting opinions or anything like that. You also need to figure out what you're going to do post-crisis. You need to figure out how you're going to recover, how you're going to compensate people, and you need to prepare for extended hiatus of business operations, because your facility is likely damaged and you need to figure out how to continue working and providing a service even though your facility is gone. So whether it be through renting another facility or just closing down for a period of time, that's important parts of the CMP. Question number 3. I think that Jenny is fully legally responsible, pretty much 80% legally responsible for the injuries that occurred for 2 reasons. One, because of the rule of 7, The children she's supervising are 12 years old, which puts them in the second category, where they are only considered partially responsible for their actions. Because as we know from this rule, the younger you are, the less responsibility you have for your actions. The second reason I think Jenny is fully responsible is because she is working at the summer camp, and this occurred during her shift, where she is meant to be supervising the exact area of the swimming pool, of the swimming group, and she wasn't paying attention. She was texting her boyfriend, which is clear negligence. Her duty to supervise the scene stems from it being a special relationship inherent in the situation, because it's part of her duty as a summer camp counselor to take care of the kids, especially since this is her shift. And during this time, she definitely did not provide supervision for the entire period because she got distracted by her phone. She did not warn participants against the potential dangers of throwing rocks at each other, and she did not instruct them to stop it or tell them about the rules and the safety. And someone definitely got hurt on her watch. So I think she's fully responsible for the situation, like mostly responsible, because the kids are 12. Question 4. I think this document is actually more of a parental permission form rather than a waiver, because even so, it might not be a very good parental permission form. So the only elements that I found that were available inside the document that made it look anything like a waiver was that it was obvious that the document needed to be signed by someone above the age of 18. That's the only element that was there. Aside from that, the document did not clearly state right on top that this is a waiver. It lacked any language at all about anything. It almost lacked words that weren't prompts to fill in spaces. So it didn't tell the person signing it anything about the activity, about any of the risks, about whether you are signing away your liability and you're consenting to it. So basically, it lacked language. It definitely did not have specific language about risks. It didn't really provide information. And in terms of what is required for a waiver, waiver needs to be clearly stated to be a waiver. It needs to be in simple language, which I guess this one was, but at the same time, it didn't really count as it being in a language because they didn't really say anything. Yeah, so basically it's missing almost everything, and it needs to add the fact that it's a waiver, needs to add words, specific language, needs to make the language simple, and I think that's about it. Perfect. And now for question 5. Hiring procedures will be affected by, I would think we would make prospective employees will be notified that the use of medical marijuana on premises and during job hours should be strictly prohibited. The use of it in their own times is fine as long as they're not under the influence during the shift. So as long as we put that down in writing, record it, make sure that they know about it during the hiring process, then everything should be fine. In the event that an accident does occur, of course, there would most definitely be post-accident testing. I think also should make that clear during the hiring procedure that post-accident testing is a must, it's unavoidable, and should the results come back positive, then the company will not, it should be clear to the workers that the company will not pay worker compensation to an employee who was under the influence at the time of an accident, because we should have clearly told them in the beginning during the hiring process that if they are caught under the influence, then that's just not right. So you should also make it clear, we'll also make it clear to them that if they are found guilty of being under the influence during the accident, that we will hold it against them and there will be punishment or a disciplinary action. Employees will definitely be drug tested. They will definitely be drug tested. First, we'll ask them if they have a legitimate reason to use medical marijuana, and if they do, we'll record it. And after that, every employee could be subject to random testing about 3 to 4 times a year, and it'll be completely random based on whether the supervisors feel as though there's some suspicion, or just randomly. So that way it'll be random so that nobody can prepare themselves for it or try to fake it. Off-duty conduct. First, of course, we'll find out who has permission to use medical marijuana. And if we test them randomly and they do not have permission to use it, but they are found with it in their system, we will, of course, warn them that this is technically it is actually against the law, and that they could be found guilty of using a Schedule 1 drug. We will warn them maybe twice, and at the same time we will also ensure that we provide them access to support for individuals who have drug problems, because we want to help them as employers. And of course, if we test them once randomly and we test them again and we test them a third time across the span of maybe 2 years, and they are still found, every time they're found to have drugs in their system, then we will likely have to let them go or suspend them for another 6 months, and then test them again to see if they have it in their system. And if they have it in their system and still don't have reason, like an actual reason to use medical marijuana, we will likely let them go. And I think that's all for all 5 questions.